Good afternoon, everyone. Today, I have the honor to introduce you to Dr. Paul Sabolic, who will conduct a fantastic presentation on entrepreneurship, a topic near and dear to our hearts. Dr. Paul Sabolic has been a respected faculty member at Woodbury University School of Business since 1999. He brings to the School of Business 50 plus years of experience in business and management with multinational corporations and 30 plus years of academic and administrative experience in private and public post-secondary institutions, including the University of Redlands, Santa Monica College, Los Angeles Valley College, and Los Angeles Pierce College. Dr. Sabolic's expertise encompasses marketing, management, economics, media studies, information technology, and education. His consulting practice is aimed at a diverse client base, including NYSE companies, Procter & Gamble, Anheuser-Busch, American Medical International, and Tribune Corporation. Dr. Sabolic is our foremost expert in entrepreneurship and serves as the advisor to our chapter of CEO, the Collegiate Entrepreneurs Organization. His areas of expertise vary from corporate planning, CRM and project management, and team building to diversity issues in employment, strategic planning, and management by objectives. Dr. Sabolic holds a BA in History, Political Science from the University of Washington, an MBA in Management Marketing from Pepperdine University, and an EDD in Computer and Information Technology from Nova Southeastern University. Thank you, Dr. Sabolic, for being here, and may I now ask everyone's attention for a fantastic presentation on entrepreneurship.
Well, thank you, Joan. Again, it's a pleasure to be here with everyone, and every time I hear my bio, it just indicates that I'm just getting older, maybe, and not necessarily more experienced. But again, thank you for allowing me to present today. It's a very complex topic when we start to truly think about entrepreneurship. And I went online to try and determine how many Google hits the word entrepreneur has. Years ago, Google used to quantify terminology, and now they don't. When I hit the word entrepreneur, the response came back, we cannot quantify this because there are just so many millions of hits that it would be difficult because it is an ever-changing topic and it is quite diverse. And that, in a nutshell, pretty much explains the difficulty, in a sense, trying to get a handle on entrepreneurship. And when I was putting together this presentation, I wanted to try and make it as relevant as possible, especially to our students who I would hope at some point would source this lecture and maybe hear it again, because sometimes in classroom it's ephemeral. It's there for the moment, but then it's gone. But now we're able to record it, document it, and memorialize it. So maybe the students can at some point log back in and hear it. I really wanted to try and make it a real world presentation. We hear so often about the theoretical approaches and the fantastic representations of success and how fantastic this person was and how they did this and how they did that. And in reality, we don't hear about the struggles. We don't hear about the iceberg. We only see the tip of it. We only hear the exciting things and the wonderful things. But it's, again, 90% of it is hidden. 90% of it is that nobody talks about it. And I wanted to try and as best possible, put a little bit of reality to the question. So I've got a couple of PowerPoints I'd like to share with you and talk you through it, if that's okay, just to give you some context and to try to lay out the format to this. So may I share my screen with all of you? Is that okay? All right. So if we look at the context of the entrepreneur, and again, I wanted to put a real label on this to the point where uh, it made people think about it. It made people think about what it takes to do this kind of business or this kind of activity. Again, call it what you may. So I structured it into four basic points. And why be an entrepreneur? And we get, for as many as there are people interested in entrepreneurship, we'll get a different answer as to why they want to do it. But it comes down to basically two different approaches. One being it's your dream, it's something I've thought about my whole life. And then the other one is I want to be my own boss. And as we start to look at those concepts or those ideas, maybe we can get a little clarity in our discussion. And then, of course, I wanted to lay out the reality, and I call them the uncomfortable truths because, again, it's those things that people don't really want to talk about. It's the difficulties that they face, and it's the adversity that they confront, which you don't read about very often. And again, it's something that is hidden to the person who is the dreamer or the person who is expecting something special to come out of this activity. So we're going to deal with it in those areas, and then the last part I'm going to give you my perspective of 50 years worth of business experiences, what I believe that it truly takes to succeed. And again, even though it's my opinion and it's my perspective and it's my vision of what should happen, that doesn't make it a success. Even if you follow these guidelines, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to be what it's all about. So let's go to your dream. Again, let me know if you can see the screen. Yes?
I can see it. Yes.
Okay. So we're going to turn your passion into a profit. And that's what people totally believe when they go into a venture. All of my excitement and all of my enthusiasm and all of my being is going to be put into this, and I'm going to make a profit. I'm going to control my own destiny. I'm not going to let people tell me what to do anymore. I'm going to develop a level of financial independence, whether I believe that or not, but that's going to be what I'm dreaming to do. And again, I'm not someone who embraces a traditional 9 to 5 job, and I'm not one that is going to look at this perspective and make it the focus of my existence. They also believe they can make a positive impact on society. There, you hear a lot of these stories, especially those that are coming out of the social entrepreneurship field, where we're doing very good things in nonprofits and we're structuring our efforts and our venture into helping society. I've had all these ideas in my life, and I'm now going to make it happen. I'm now going to actualize my ideas and literally make it happen. And then, of course, the dreamer's dream is to make a fundamental difference in the world in whatever manner I expect. And I, as I go through my days, I look at that in the same context. I constantly tell my wife, I haven't made my impact yet. I'm still destined for great things. As old as I am, I'm still looking to still make an impact, or if I may, make a difference on society or on my world or my universe. That is still the dreamer's dream. The second area is to be your own boss. And again, we can drill down and we can reduce it to its lowest common denominator, where we see that individuals are just so frustrated with the work world. They're so frustrated with the hierarchies in organizations, and they're so if you like, they're so opposed to the work world that we have uncovered over the last dozen years or so. Then they feel because they can be their own boss, they're going to develop their own strategy and objectives, and they're going to live by those standards that they can, live in whatever world that they create, whether it's a viable universe, whether or not it's a realistic universe. Again, it depends upon how they structure. And then by making up their own rules, they feel they have the power and that they have the individual control to determine their destiny. And then we see a lot of times in companies and organizations where we need to conform, we need to adapt, we need to be somebody we're not to fit into, a corporate culture. And when I talk to my students about this, and corporate culture and defining, those rules, and I give them some of my background. When I worked at Procter and Gamble, our dress code was literally to wear a suit. And as a salesperson, as a section salesperson, we would literally go into supermarkets and we would have to check our shelf space to make sure we had product on the shelf. And if there were no Procter and Gamble products on the shelf, it was our responsibility as a salesperson to go into the back room of the supermarket and take a giant case of Tide soap, for example, and literally bring it out and price it. We had stamping machines, and we would price the products and put them on the shelves. And we're in a suit and tie. You can imagine how many suits I damaged by having to fill the shelves with product. And again, if you look back at the days of IBM and the culture of IBM, where they all wore white shirts and black ties, and they literally had the uniform, and they had to follow the corporate culture. And I tell the story about McKinsey and Marvin Bower, who founded the modern McKinsey, and everything around McKinsey's culture literally revolved around Marvin Bower. If he wore a red necktie, you wore a red necktie. If he wore a straw hat, you wore a straw hat. And that was the compliance, if you like, in those days. And some organizations continue to carry on within that culture realm where they make you adapt or adopt their styles and their methodology. So again, being your own boss, you feel that you then have the control and that you can do that on your own. So as we again drill down to the lowest common denominator of all the reasons why someone wants to be an entrepreneur, it stems to where I'm creating my own destiny, and I'm making up my own way as I go, and then I'm going to be my own boss, and then reality strikes. After you have created this nirvana on earth, or this wonderful place, this utopian existence in your entrepreneurial venture, the reality strikes. And sadly, the reality strikes in unfortunately many different ways. And if you look at the next slide, these are some of the uncomfortable truths. And there is, if you look up the definition of entrepreneurship in any source and any resource, there's always the word risk component tied to it at some form. It's creating a venture, but taking on risk. Taking on the risk allows you to then get the reward of the profit. But the passion that's required to deal with the risks, sometimes it's immeasurable, and it damages individuals' confidence and abilities. And the latest survey, the latest Huddle survey, the 2024 survey of entrepreneurs, they surveyed about 550 entrepreneurs in the United States, and provided the resource at the end of the lecture. So if you're curious, you could read it. They say the number one challenge of an entrepreneur is profit. And when you look at the risks associated with that, it leads to a lot of anxiety and a lot of stress. And most profit isn't generated until after year two. And those 2 years of struggle has a tendency to level the market and to equalize, those kinds of ventures. Sadly, and again, depending upon whom you read and what statistics you follow, failure rate is very high in startup ventures. And again, I tell students that's why banks won't talk to you until you have at least 3 years of operating income or operating activity to show that you truly have a business and that you have resources, money coming in, and you're paying your bills as you go. I can tell you from personal experience, many of my latest ventures in my entrepreneurial ventures have been in buying luxury properties and renovating them, not flipping them. Usually, our properties take about 2 years to redo, rebuild, whatever you want to call it. Flips in real estate happen within 3 to 4 months, and people are flipping 3 or 4 houses a year. Well, we're flipping one house in 2 years. And in our case, it's not ordinary income, it's capital gains income. And we do that intentionally because of the lower tax rate. But I will tell you the latest venture that we had in Laguna Beach, and a couple of our faculty are aware of it because I share the property with them. I say, hey, you guys want to buy a house kind of thing. But this one property in Laguna was a huge risk in that we had to literally rebuild the hillside at top of the world in Laguna. For those of you familiar with the area, we had to put 16 steel stanchions into the hillside, into the bedrock, 40 feet into bedrock. And that alone cost around $400,000. And I am the investor. I am the risk taker with money. My partners are involved in the construction aspects and on the vendor side, making sure that we get enough raw material to be able to rebuild the properties the way we want to. And again, we're talking about luxury properties, and we're talking about top of the line materials. We're talking about top of the line, stoves, ovens, cabinetry, and all of those kinds of things. And this last property, personally, I had invested about $1.5 million, and the real estate market shifted. As many of you probably know, we listed the property last year in October only because we had 2 months of serious rain and hillside issues, and it delayed having it listed during the summer, which was our expectation. So we really had no takers in October, November. And we're now talking about a $20,000 a month mortgage that needs to be funded and needs to be paid to maintain the property. And so we took it off the market in October, and we relisted it in March of this year. So for 5 months, we're paying, property taxes, and we're paying mortgage. And I'm looking at my partners, and I'm saying, okay, what are we going to do? And what's our strategy? And every other week we are creating a new strategy. We're developing, a new risk tolerance model to where what if, and we're developing those scenarios in our heads, and obviously on paper we're looking at the real numbers. So we had to reduce the price. We had listed it for $5.7 million. And that was obviously too high, although we were reassured by professionals in the community that it was priced properly, but yet we had no takers. So in March of this year, we relisted it and we dropped the price, and we finally sold it. Now, the upside to that is not only are we going to get, I'm going to get my money back, but we're also going to make a profit on the higher end, which again, we had built into the construction of the house. But again, risk. If we could not have gotten a sale by June, we literally were going to be out of money, and possibly bankruptcy. And that's a risk tolerance that many ulcers can't handle. And literally, I was starting to feel the stress. I was starting to feel the tension. It caused a little bit of disruption in my partnership, and not that it wasn't resolved. We were able to resolve it, of course, but the stress was intense, and I was very fortunate that I'm married to a therapist, and she was my I had a session with her almost every day to try and maintain some level of civility. So again, as we look at risk, it's real. It's not something that you can reject, slough off, and make it some kind of existence that really isn't true. Another part of this risk part is funding and lack of funding and being undercapitalized. And I can tell you, in my consulting experience since 1986, where even when I started my business, was undercapitalized, but clearly I didn't have the startup expenses that most entrepreneurs have. As being a consultant, I needed letterhead, I needed business cards, and I needed some initial funding for travel. And I was able to negotiate office space with a client where I did his marketing collaterals, and he gave me a 10 by 10 office. So that was my startup, and I was able to do that with 2 credit cards of $5,000 limit back in 1986, which was a lot of money at the time. And it took me about 18 months to recover and pay back my startup, because I was traveling, I was going out getting clients, and paying for hotel and airfare and rental cars, and again, was I undercapitalized personally? Probably, because I had to use my own lines of credit to do that. But again, probably 80%, if I were to do a statistical model on my clients over the years, I would say close to 80% lacked the funding, the startup funding that they needed. They were all undercapitalized. And according to the Huddle survey that I cited earlier, of those 530 plus entrepreneurs, the 74% claimed that they had to use their personal funds for their startup. Again, very few banks or funding institutions are going to lend for startup. So you've got to come up with your own. Lack of customers. Sadly, this, according to the survey, was the number 2 challenge, was marketing. And the survey indicated that over 57% of those surveyed indicated that getting new customers was difficult, and where they needed to focus. And we all know the outcome of that. And again, I tell my students, you have no customers, you have no business. And so again, it reaffirms the importance of the marketing model. And as a marketer and myself, I can tell you that that's where literally the intersection of dream and reality hits. You're not going to do business without customers, and no matter how good you think you are, how good your products are, without people buying it, you're really not in business for very long. Intense work schedule. I can tell you from my personal experience that there were days I worked 24/7, especially during startup. There is no 8-hour day for an entrepreneur. I'm sorry. Again, that's the reality. According to the Huddle survey, the average number of hours in a workday for an entrepreneur is 11. And that's average. I don't know where they get the average. Again, I don't know what their modeling was, but every entrepreneur I knew literally worked as long as it took to build the business. I can tell you that you are literally linked to your customers. I had phone calls at midnight at times. I had phone calls while I was on vacation in Europe. They were able to find me, and there is no way on the planet can I say, no, I'm on vacation, don't bother me. or it's 5 o'clock and my day's ended and I can't talk to you now. I would not have been in business for almost 40 years if I treated my customers like that. And the old cliche is, again, an entrepreneur is always on duty. You have your standards must be to meet your customers' expectations, and again, that's the reality, ladies and gentlemen. And if you're not willing to confront that truth, then being an entrepreneur isn't for you, sadly. And again, it takes that commitment and that work schedule that you can follow it all you want, but yet if you don't basically meet your needs of your clients or your customers, you won't be in business for very long. Wear many hats. I used to wear a hat, and I used to, look in the mirror sometimes, and the hat was crooked, and it was turned to the left or turned to the right or turned backwards. And well, today I'm a marketer. Yesterday I was an accountant. I was doing my books. The day before that I was an HR person because I was hiring, and the day before that I was a production person putting together proposals and marketing materials and doing the mailing, and I was a mail clerk. And literally, the expression is a one-man band or a one-person band, however you want to describe it. There's just no way around the fact, as a startup or even well into your venture, that you're going to be doing everything. I mean, there's an old story about McDonald's when Ray Kroc took over the business and started building the McDonald's locations. He was literally known for going into the restrooms and checking to see that they were clean. And if they weren't clean, he would literally get a mop and a bucket and go in there himself and scrub the bathroom and clean it. There's many pictures of him with a bucket and a mop, making sure that his facilities were sanitary and spotless. So again, and we're talking about the founder of the modern McDonald's, who was actually so hands-on that he sometimes alienated his own staff because he tried to do everything himself. Then you say, the next bottom line is being your own boss. Your customers are going to tell you whether or not you're your own boss. You're going to have many bosses. Your customers, your clients are your bosses. If they say, I need you at 6 p.m., I need you at 6 a.m., you have to make a decision if that's where you want to be. And the last part of this uncomfortable truth discussion is there's no instruction manual. It doesn't matter how many classes you take on entrepreneurship, how many books you read on entrepreneurship, and I've read hundreds of articles and dozens of books on entrepreneurship and starting your own business and running your own business and running your own venture. Call it what you may. And everybody's got an opinion, and they're like ears. Sometimes people have more than one, and they're going to give you their input. They're going to give you their model, and frankly, their model may not work. Their model may not be what you expect. And what you want to be able to do is, with all of these resources that you would and should validate in your own mind, you have to pick out what works for you. You literally have to figure it out as you go. And sometimes, sadly, we make 2 steps forward and then have to take 3 steps backwards. That's not the right way to do it, but many times that's how you learn what not to do. And again, it takes persistence on your part. It takes a constant awareness of what it is that you're doing and how you're going about doing it. And that's the reality. These 6 factors or 7 factors, in my opinion, and again, I've never been humble. I've never really been one to withhold. I'll express my views, and I will tell students in my classes, and I tell my clients the same thing. Don't take what I'm saying as gospel. Verify it, validate it, challenge it, question it, find other sources, find other information. Don't just take what someone says as truth. It may not be your truth. So you have to take what's being said and sort it and sift it and let it coagulate in your head and then choose the right course, make the right decision. What's good for you and what's good for your business. And the last part, again, I saved for, here's what I would recommend. And again, it's one person, it's just me. Again, take what I'm saying with a grain of salt, validate it, verify it, question it, and I hope I do get questions literally. But the number one trait, as we do a lot of these things in class, and we do in a lot of the readings that I have done over the years, the number one trait in an entrepreneur has to be passion. They have to be driven by this intense belief that this is what their purpose is on the planet. This is what they were destined to do. It has to be the driving force. And the passion is literally what actualizes the dream. If you don't have that passion to do what is necessary to succeed in your business, you might as well just go and work for somebody else and just commit to being an employee, because the entrepreneur venture may not be for you. The book I'm going to write someday, and I keep threatening to write it, and I've got a myriad of notes and Post-its all over the place in my file. I'm going to write the book from idea to I did it. And I'm going to copyright that phrase. I haven't seen it. I've seen a lot of iterations of it. It may be out there, but I'm going to put my spin on how to do something from the idea and the conception. Again, everybody has ideas, but it's actualizing the idea and making it happen. Self-confidence, not enough can be said about self-confidence. I had lunch actually with a colleague of mine from years ago, a person by the name of Steve Brenner. Steve was a publicity director for the Los Angeles Dodgers for about 30 years, and has his own public relations firm. And Steve is a person that I talk to a lot regarding the LA Valley College Athletic Hall of Fame, which I'm the chairperson, and I've been for 20 years. And so we have a dinner coming up in June, and I needed to get Steve to get some publicity for us. And he was inducted into the first class of the Hall of Fame in 2007. And Tommy Lasorda, the Dodger manager, inducted him, came to the dinner and actually presented the Hall of Fame plaque to him. And Steve reminded me of that at lunch the other day. And when we talk about self-confidence, it has to be I did it, or I will do it, and not try. And he was, we were talking about something, and I said, okay, Steve, I'll try. And he said, Tommy Lasorda said he could get truck drivers to try, which meant that he can get anybody to come out in the baseball field and try, but not everybody can do it. and I keep that focus in that it takes a lot of believing in yourself. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. To believe that you truly can get something done and not just try to do it, but actually complete it. Commitment. I am of the firm belief that there is a significant difference between involvement and commitment. And I share this again with anybody who wants to listen. I say it's like ham and eggs. And literally the ham and eggs metaphor is, the chicken's involved, but the pig's committed to that breakfast. And that's commitment. We're not just dropping the egg and leaving. we're committed to the process. We're all in. Hands-on, again, this is part of that description of doing it all. Excuse me. You have to do what is necessary to get the job done. And there are several different articles about the hands-on, and it deals specifically with finance and marketing. A lot of times an entrepreneur will try and outsource that. Well, I'll get an accountant to do it, or I'll get a marketing person to do it, and I won't have to bother with it. That is not the answer. You have to know where every one of your dollars is going. You have to know where your customers are and how many of them out there willing and able to buy your product at the price you want to sell it. You have to do all of these things. You can't deflect it. You can't delegate it. It is part of who you are. Yes, you can ask for help. You can get resources. You can bring people in to do some of these things, but you have to be on it. You have to oversee it. You can't just neglect it and let it go. And I've had clients who have bought businesses, and they're absentee owners, and they're saying, well, I'll let Joe, Sally, or Bill handle it. And guess what happens to the business? It dies because Joe, Sally, and Bill don't have the same commitment to the process, and the owner doesn't sit on every idea and every dollar that needs to be used in the venture. Dedicated to task, again, it's similar to being hands-on, whatever it takes. And as I started my business, I was the marketing person, and I fundamentally did all the marketing projects. But then there were parts of a project that I didn't have knowledge. And years ago, some of you might relate to this, and I've told this story before. And Y2K, in 1999, there was a huge level of anxiety in businesses that they were afraid that their computers were going to crash when the year converted from 99 to 00, and that their computers would no longer be able to talk to the mainframes at the banks and at the other financial institutions. So they wanted to have their systems verified and validated. And I got calls from clients saying, can you come in and check my computers? Well, I'm not a programmer, nor am I a COBOL programmer, which was what those programs were written in back in the early days in the 50s. But I had two colleagues of mine at a university where I was teaching, and in those days it was called data processing, and they just happened to be COBOL programmers. And I hired them. I asked them if they would be interested in working on a couple of projects, and I told them what it was, and they said absolutely. And in 1999, I was charging clients $70 an hour for roughly about 30 hours of work for the client to have their computers checked. And my colleague said, they're gonna roll over, everything's fine, no problem. I said, yeah, but the client wants validation. They want somebody to come in there and check it out and tell them that. And what happened was I paid my colleagues $60 an hour, and I charged 70, and I made $10 an hour on the swing, and I had like 20 clients during 1999, and it was the easiest $10 an hour I ever made. But I wasn't a COBOL programmer. I literally had to bring someone in that could do it, that basically had the means to do it. So again, as we look at this process in being hands-on and dedicated to task, there's another cliche. Well, it's not even a cliche. It's an actual quote by a former CEO of International Harvester, where he was quoted as saying, business is simple. You just have to sell things for more than it costs you to make it. But it's the million details in between that kill you. And again, it's this entrepreneurial mindset. The entrepreneur doesn't believe there are these details. And there are a million details between selling your service or your product for more than you cost to make it, and it's everything in between that provides the challenge. And the part here about mentors, you need to have enough money set aside for professional help. And I don't say that as a a conflict. I will tell you, you will need an expert or two to help you with your venture, whether it be a marketing consultant or whether it be a financial consultant or whether it be someone within legal. But you've got to put money aside to pay for those services. And I've had clients in the past where they would call me and say, well, I would like a proposal for these tasks, for these projects. And I would give them a quote, and they would say, no, you're a little pricey. I'm going to go with so-and-so. And I would say, okay, fine. And then a month or two later, I'd get a call from the same client saying, listen, can you come back in and talk to me? This other person didn't do what I expected, and I paid them, and now I have no money left. And I say, well, I'm really sorry. I can't help you now. You hit the iceberg, and it's a little late for me to jump in, especially since you don't have the resources to actually solve the problem as it needs to be solved. So again, try to find mentors. And I tell our students here at Woodbury, I go, your faculty are your mentors. Come to us and ask. And if we don't know, we'll guide you to somebody who possibly does, who can help you. And we try to be a resource for our students as well. And I tell them, you're part of the family, and no, I don't charge you, just go and make it happen, and we'll do all we can to help you. But the bottom line is, a lot of businesses don't do that. They don't put money aside for mentors or the professional help. You have to be able to navigate a financial crisis, which you will have. For example, right now, tariffs are an issue, and there are businesses that are buying from China, and they're immediately getting 50 to 75% increases in cost, and they don't know how to deal with it. They're struggling with it, and the tariffs haven't really been applied yet, but they're already in a panic mode, and they're worried about having to deal with the uncertainty. And you have to be able to deal with that. You have to be able to accept the anxiety of a financial crisis, because you will have them. I can tell you from my personal experience, there were times that I was so late on my car payments because my payroll wasn't coming through and my clients weren't paying on time. And I had to lock my car in the garage so it wouldn't be repossessed. So we do a lot of those things to deal with that uncertainty. There was a one time where I couldn't make payroll, and it was a Thursday, and payroll was tomorrow, Friday, and I was out of money, and my clients hadn't sent me their checks, and I had to make payroll. And I remembered I had a credit line with Bank of America where I started my business, and it was frozen because I never used it. And I had a good relationship with the bank manager. So I went to the bank manager. I said, can you unfreeze this? I need to have access at least for 48 to 72 hours. And buttons were pushed and papers were pulled, and I had the line of credit unlocked, and I was able to make payroll. And it was any kind of blessing you can imagine, that I had remembered that I had the credit line and never used it. So financial crises will happen, and you've got to live with the uncertainty. Again, let me know if you can see the screen. Actualize your dream. Your vision makes and create measurable goals. You've got to be able to have that. You've got to be able to put that together. Nothing happens unless you do it. Nike had the famous quote, just do it. You've got to make it happen. And a couple of the last things here before we end. Hopefully I'm still on time. You have to evaluate your traits, and you have to look in the mirror and ask yourself, do you possess some of these? And I can share with you what we created in my classes over the last 30 years. If you can see the screen, these are the traits that have been accumulated over time from various entrepreneur studies and various case studies, and it's basically come down to, again, passion, commitment, calculated risk taker, vision, perseverance. You have high expectations. You've got to have the resources. We call it the means of production: land, labor, capital, and entrepreneurial ability. Timing is essential. Are you looking to do business in a period when, like, for example, real estate doesn't sell in October, November, December? So we pulled my house off the market, and we didn't waste, promotional costs and materials during that downtime. You've got to be a communicator. You've got to be somewhat of a planner. You don't have to be an actual business planner, but and you have to have the ego. Without the ego, you will be attacked, and you will be attacked mostly by your family and friends, who will say, "You're going to do what? Are you crazy? Are you out of your mind? Why are you going to do this? Your life is good right now. Why are you going to step into the whirlwind and try to do something that is unexpected and something different?" So again, look in the mirror and ask yourself if you have these traits. And in my experience, again, to end, I truly believe you've got to have the 4 Ds and the K: drive, desire, discipline, determination. And you got to have some knowledge. You got to read up on the industry, the business. You've got to have some background. You've got to do some due diligence. And then every day in your business and in your personal life, for that matter, again, however you want to do it, ask the 3 strategic questions. And again, I do this myself. I do this with my clients. I tell students to do this. Ask yourself, where are you now today? Where do you want to be tomorrow? And how do you plan to get there? And again, it's in flux. It's constant. Change is inevitable. And that's basically what, again, I try to encourage and advise my clients and of course my students on all of that the same way. And that's basically my presentation. Joan, I'm open for questions. I'll be happy to supply the resources, the Huddle survey. If somebody needs it, I'll be happy to send it out to you.